Jerome Perera works as a psychiatrist at North York General Hospital and a clinician and teacher at the University of Toronto. Stemming from an interest in advocating for wellness, he's published a website, Improving Mental Health During COVID-19, and I'll drop the link for that in the chat. During the pandemic, he's delivered outreach webinars to North York Toronto Health Partners, North York General Hospital Foundation, even house calls, Access Point, mental health hotline staff, Toronto North Support Services, the City of Toronto Community Development staff, and last year during our Mental Health Awareness Week. This presentation will review practical ways of building resilience, especially during periods of prolonged stress. I know we have a lot of great content here to get through, so I ask that you wait until the end of the presentation for any questions you may have. So please welcome Dr. Jerome Perera.
Thank you, Priya, for the warm welcome and for organizing a great week with lots of great content. So it's a privilege to talk to you about this important topic, especially given the meaningful work that all of you are doing for our communities during this time. So getting through the pandemic is, turning out to be a bit of a marathon, right? It's been extremely challenging, and many of us might feel like we're just getting by. So ideally, this material will help to improve your resilience and your wellness, which then may lead to enhancements in your work and home life. So I acknowledge that you have dedicated time out of your day for this. So please take a moment to appreciate your decision to attend this talk. So the objectives for this presentation are as follows: to outline concepts in stress and wellness, and to review practical strategies to build resilience. So please be prepared. I will be presenting a lot of high-yield material, so take notes if you wish. Partway through, we will take a 5-minute recovery break for a progressive muscle relaxation exercise, and then we'll continue. So I personally have no conflicts of interest. This presentation is informed by my training and also a bit of personal experience. I don't claim to be the best when it comes to wellness or resilience. However, learning more about this topic is actually helping me to navigate challenges in my own life, and I do hope that this collection of information is also helpful to you. I do acknowledge that each of you have significant life experience to draw upon. You've overcome several challenges that have brought you to where you are today. Yet each of us can improve. We can add to our wellness toolkit. The information I provide might reinforce or provide a new perspective on self-care. However, it's not a one-size-fits-all, so please use what works for you. And depending on your personal circumstance, just aim to do what you can. So multiple choice question. When faced with stressful life circumstances, A, increase the amount of self-care, B, continue with the same level of self-care, or C, save time and energy and reduce self-care activities. So I'll give you a few seconds to think about this. So the answer is A, increase the amount of self-care. So why is this important? During times of stress, we are less likely to engage in self-care. However, this is when it's most important, and even minor improvements will make a big difference. So this is similar to car maintenance. It's absolutely essential for safety, mileage, and to prevent breakdowns. And if we're going on long road trips, we need to stop for fuel or to recharge. And the human machine works the same way. I'd like you to reflect on the following during the presentation. What is one self-care activity that I can do more consistently? This presentation will offer several suggestions. Just choose one. And down the road, you can revisit the content and add another. So by now, most of us are experts on identifying the specific stressors during this pandemic, so I won't spend too much time on this. What is unique about this is that we're having a shared global human experience, and instant media results in constant exposure to the news, and we undergo a kind of vicarious trauma. So uncertainty around the duration of the pandemic is also adding to some anxiety. And in the midst of all this, we might feel pressure to perform and to show strength at work and at home. And this then places us at increased risk for burnout or for mental health problems. So stress is a normal reaction to a challenge or a change. It results in several physical, emotional, and intellectual responses. The purpose of stress is adaptation and equilibrium. That's the purpose of the stress response. We cannot eliminate stress from our lives. It's actually required for healthy development and can be seen as an opportunity to grow and to build resilience. However, problems occur if there's too little or too much stress. If we're understimulated, it can lead to disengagement, and if we're overstimulated, it can lead to problems. There is an optimal zone where just the right amount of stress leads to fulfilling and productive living. Stress also involves a balance between demands and resources. So demands include the responsibilities in our lives, and resources include self-care practices, our health, coping skills, organizational structures, and time. So coping is essentially how we manage our response to demands. So the sympathetic nervous system is launched when we detect threat in our environment. It involves a biological response as listed in the left-hand column. Most of you are familiar with some of these things that happen. The body essentially redirects its resources to address the perceived threat. The stress response is meant to be discharged immediately by moving our bodies in fight or flight. However, if this system is maintained and cortisol continues to surge, it ends up being damaging because less energy is devoted to healing and recovery. And this then increases the risk of chronic health problems and pain. So our bodies are designed to handle brief periods of stress, not chronic stress. So this is the mental health continuum. And on the left side is wellness, where it's actually normal to experience occasional stress. So feeling stressed is not the same as having mental illness. There is no impairment in social or occupational functioning at this end. Towards the right side, level of distress and impairment build. Symptoms become more disabling and people have difficulty with functioning. So these days, many of us might feel like we're somewhere in the middle. We're kind of languishing or surviving instead of thriving. These are some red flags to look out for. So feeling sad or worried for most days, changes in usual behaviors, increased substance use or other risky behaviors, hopelessness, thoughts of death, suicide, or violence, less able to function in roles. Okay, so if you're experiencing any of these, please connect with a mental health provider earlier than later. Don't wait for a crisis. And it's good to seek support even as a preventive measure. Continue to learn about wellness as you're doing right now. So here's a general approach to cope with problems. The first has to do with putting energy into working on solutions, but not all problems have immediate solutions. So it becomes important to manage our emotions and build a resilience through a wellness practice. We can also find meaning and purpose through our struggles, especially for things that are out of our control. And this might include, family and friends, making a difference in society, or for personal growth. The key factor in determining whether stress is positive or destructive is the pattern of stress. So if stress is unpredictable, if it's extreme, if it's prolonged, it usually leads to vulnerability. So individuals who have faced significant childhood adversity or socio-political instability are at increased risk of this. If, on the other hand, stress is more predictable, if it's moderate and controlled, it can lead to resilience. So many of us are at risk of drifting towards a stress pattern that looks like the left side of this diagram. So modifying that pattern to look more like the right will help to build resilience. So a definition for resilience is the ability to respond to significant stress and to return to a previous level of functioning. So we might refer to this as adapting or bouncing back from adversity. So even 1 year ago, you might not have predicted that you would have endured through this pandemic as you have, and here you are. So times of extreme stress provide opportunities for growth, to strengthen, and to find meaning. However, it can take time, it can take hard work, and mostly occurs after the event has passed. Here's a quotation that I like. It's anonymous. It's only when it rains that we grow. So our ancestors survived because they paid attention to threats in their environment. So we have essentially inherited a bias to look out for the negative. The brain tends to stick to negative experiences and less so with positive ones. The trade-off here is that our awareness affects our biology. So when the brain perceives a threat in reality, in virtual reality, if you're watching a movie or if it's in your imagination, it sends messages to organ systems. And these messages have tangible impacts on our sleep, our appetite, sexuality, cognition, and energy, to name a few. So if we are constantly perceiving threat, real or imagined, our biology is more likely to match it. So this is the power of the mind-body connection. The good news is that it also works in reverse. So engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, the opposite of fight or flight, promotes health and resilience. So this system involves recovery, digestion, and immune function. So in order to be in a relaxed state, your body and mind need practice getting there repeatedly. And once this path is established, it becomes easier to achieve again when needed. So unfortunately, in modern society, we tend to attach value and ego to being super busy all the time. So it's crucial to build time for recovery and to counter the stress response. So the heart is a good example. So after a brief period of contraction, it actually spends most of its time in a state of rest. The way we cope with stress can add to the toll in the long term. So the straight line is what happens when stress continues to build. The line below represents managing our stress levels by making time for relaxation and for recovery. And doing so can lead to resilience. Even things like laughter, dance, and singing also help to counter the stress response. So wellness incorporates several dimensions, and this includes emotional, coping effectively with life, having pleasant and stimulating environments, having creative outlets and expanding knowledge, maintaining physical activity, diet, sleep, and nutrition, having satisfying work, expanding a sense of purpose and meaning in life, having deep social connections, and finally, financial stability. So tend to these areas as best you can. A general approach to wellness is to set the foundation with consistent self-care practices. So aim to manage the demands, resources, thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And it's generally better to manage than to react. This is an interesting acronym that I came across. So the acronyms SELF can serve as a reminder for the often neglected areas of sleep, exercise, leisure, and food. So be sure to protect these foundational pieces as they are the most important aspects of wellness. And without them, you're placing yourself at high risk for health concerns. But given the nature of the busy lives that we lead, these areas are often not fully attended to. So I'll say a few things about each of them. So please don't underestimate the importance of good quality, adequate sleep. It's very important for brain health. So during deep stages of sleep, the body switches into maintenance mode where waste products are cleared. So what happens when there's chronic sleep deprivation? It actually increases the risk of mental health problems, cardiovascular disease, and dementia. Inadequate sleep will actually make us less productive and less efficient during the day. It increases the risk of procrastination, forgetfulness, repetition, irritability, and conflict, all of which take up more time. On the other hand, too much sleep also, especially when used as an avoidance strategy, can make us lethargic. So do your best to prioritize good sleep hygiene. It's definitely a worthwhile investment. So thousands of years ago, humans would have moved their bodies on a daily basis for survival, foraging for food or running from predators. Exercise is the body's way of discharging built-up stress. It's also essential for maintaining a healthy brain. Exercise acts like a fertilizer for neuronal growth and helps with mood through the release of neurotropic factors. Exercise also generates vitality and energy. So we have to do what we can, even at home, maybe even while listening to a podcast. So consider a low-impact cardio. Even a few minutes a day can be incredibly helpful. So doing the same thing repeatedly, especially if it's stressful, can be damaging to our health. And this is where recreation and hobby come into play. A change in activity is actually a form of rest. It can help to break monotonous cycles. So doing something that is engaging is healthy for the brain, especially if it's learning a new skill. The brain is very plastic, and it can actually create new brain pathways which can help us in older age. So the term for this is plasticity. However, avoid destructive habits such as heavy substance use. And instead of spending time thinking about our problems, we can actually do something for leisure. So choose activities that are enjoyable to you. So food is a huge topic, so I'll just say a few things about it. The modern diet has way too much sugar in it, which can be damaging to our health. And our ancestors only had very small amounts of it, usually in the form of fruits, which have other nutrients packed in. So just be mindful of the sugar content in foods, check labels for added sugars, and aim for moderation. Other suggestions might include staying well hydrated, eating more plant-based proteins, nuts, and fish, and having regular meal times. This is an important slide. We need kindness now more than ever because we can easily lose track of it. And this is a high-risk period for conflict, which then increases our stress response. And the ripple effect of problematic behavior is far-reaching. We're all connected in some way. Be mindful of hostile and toxic interactions, especially with people who are closest to you, or even on social media. And what we tend to express will probably be mirrored back to us. And retaliation just ensures that that toxic pattern continues. So we can't control the behavior of others, but we can model the behavior that we want to see. One suggestion is to check in and ask yourself, is the behavior being motivated by pride, anger, or fear? And if so, that then usually leads to problems. Remember that everyone is doing the best that they can. And distraught behavior in others usually means that there is some kind of suffering below the surface. So we need to be a bit more tolerant of others and their individual process, to give space for people to decompress, to accept differences, especially if others don't seem to be coping well, and to avoid things like blaming, minimizing, or shaming. Pay attention to nonverbals. So it's not just what we say, but how we say it that makes the difference. And at the same time, we need to advocate for ourselves by being assertive, right? We shouldn't be tolerating abuse. Consequences are important, but choose your battles wisely. Remember that our goal is to preserve relationships and practice compassion, forgiveness, and kindness, especially when times are tough. Managing our time effectively can help to reduce stress and to prevent crisis. So save mental energy by using your planner more often instead of relying on memory or motivation. Fit the most important things into your schedule first so that they get done. And these could be the foundational things. Limit spending energy on low priority activities. One suggestion is to consider doing chores on weekdays so that you can open up more of your weekend for relaxation and leisure. Focus on the tasks that you're currently doing rather than thinking about everything that you have to do. And I can appreciate everyone is busy and it can be very difficult to enact some of these suggestions, but keeping the end goal in mind can help to build resilience. So be mindful of perfectionism, the all or nothing approach, right? We might say to ourselves, well, if I can't have a 1 hour workout, then it's not worth doing 10 minutes. So perfectionism can lead to avoidance. It's best to start and complete small amounts at a time. And if you're feeling overwhelmed or fatigued, let the bare minimum be enough for the day, right? Another approach is just do one. So if you have a pile of dishes, just start with washing one dish. Do one task, one chore, one report, or get through one email. And that's all you have to do for the moment. Sometimes good enough is better than nothing at all. It's important to accept that which we cannot control. Instead, focus on what you can control, and this includes our immediate environment. We are spending long hours in tight spaces, so optimize those spaces and make it comfortable. This includes things like air quality and the equipment that we use, such as monitors and headsets, to protect our vision and hearing. Wear comfortable clothing, but keep in mind that wearing pajamas all day can make us feel a bit lethargic and sleepy, and we tend to feel our best when we look our best. So boundaries between work and home life have become blurred during this pandemic. Aim to set cutoff times for work. Okay, decrease time spent on work-related activities during non-work times, unless of course you're on call or there's a deadline. There is some flexibility to this rule, but answering messages 24 hours a day can have more risk than benefit. So set limits if possible, delegate tasks, and occasionally say no. If you are navigating caregiving-related responsibilities at home, one idea is to have family meetings and come to an agreement on expectations and boundaries to help the house run more smoothly. And if possible, take occasional breaks from people that you're spending large amounts of time with. Start your day on a peaceful note. You could try a gentle sounding alarm or a light so that you're not waking up in a panic. And then after you wake up, try to avoid immediately checking your messages, social media, or the news. And this is essentially how we lived our lives before smartphones. Instead, set the foundation for your day and spend a few minutes in the morning doing something relaxing. Then dive into your day. And it might require waking up before others in your household, but it's worth it. So give your brain and body time to calibrate. It makes a big difference in how the day will unfold. So get to bed at a reasonable time so that you can wake up earlier. Consider putting devices away. And be wary of revenge bedtime procrastination. And this is when we avoid sleeping early in order to regain some sense of freedom. Also avoid doom scrolling, right? Reading about apocalyptic scenarios, or envy scrolling, checking out how glamorous other people's lives are. So I encourage you to consider disconnecting from the news, from social media and emails at least 1 hour before bed, and instead do something relaxing if you can and if your household allows for it. So this is a good time to pause for a quick progressive muscle relaxation exercise, and then we'll continue. So I'm going to turn off my video and play an audio clip for you to follow along, and I'll actually do the same thing. Progressive muscle relaxation involves squeezing and relaxing major muscle groups in the body. It can help to release stored tension and can also help to ease the mind. If your thoughts wander, simply bring your focus back to the exercise. Please stay within your own limits. Be gentle and don't tense to the point of pain or injury. It's important to keep breathing through the exercise. So get into a comfortable position in your chair. You may start by closing your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and hold for a few seconds. And now exhale out through your mouth. Continue breathing slowly and deeply. Imagine all the tension in your body being released with each breath. As you're doing so, relax into the chair. Let your muscles go limp. Release as much tension as you can, flowing out of your body. Pay attention to how you feel in this moment. Sense the weight of your body in the chair. So we'll begin in the feet and move our way up. Begin by pushing your toes into the floor while lifting your heels, and notice the tension in your calf muscles. Hold for a few seconds, and now let the muscles relax. Notice the difference between tension and relaxation. Next, squeeze the knees together. Hold for a few seconds, and relax. Remember to keep breathing deeply. Now straighten your knees, lifting your feet off the floor and pointing your toes towards you. Hold for a few seconds and relax. Return your feet to the floor. Notice the difference between tension and relaxation. Now tense the muscles in your hamstrings and glutes by bringing your heels to your buttock. Hold for a few seconds and relax. Notice the difference between tension and relaxation. Feel the tension flowing out of your body. Now flex your abdominal muscles. Hold for a few seconds and relax. Next, bring your elbows into the side of your body and feel tension in your chest or pecs. Hold for a few seconds and relax. Now squeeze your shoulder blades together. Hold for a few seconds and relax. Now clench your fists tightly, feeling the tension in your forearms. Hold for a few seconds and relax. Continue taking deep breaths. Notice the tension flowing out of your arms. Now tighten your biceps by drawing your hands up towards your shoulders. Hold for a few seconds and relax. Next, extend your arms out fully and notice the triceps. Hold for a few seconds
and relax. Now raise your shoulders up and feel the tension in your traps. Hold and relax. Feel the tension melting away. Gently look up and feel the tension in the back of your neck. Hold for a few seconds and relax. Squeeze your eyelids tight and scrunch your entire face. Hold and relax. Now open your mouth wide enough to stretch the hinges of your jaw. Hold and relax. Raise your eyebrows as far as you can. Hold and relax. Now make a big smile. Hold and relax. Finally, wrap your arms around yourself while pushing your feet into the floor. See if you can include as many muscle groups as you can. Hold this for a few seconds and relax. Take a few moments to focus on your breathing. Notice areas that feel relaxed. Enjoy how your body feels in this moment. With your next breath, bring your attention back into your surrounding environment and slowly open the eyes.
Okay, so I hope you found that useful and that you enjoyed that. And I'd ask you to check in with yourself in terms of, how are you feeling in this moment? So if you're feeling good, you can, appreciate what just 5 minutes of relaxation in your day can do in terms of how you feel. And you can take this feeling with you as you progress into your day. And hopefully it helps you to, be a bit even more effective if you're coming from a more relaxed and grounded place. So affirmations are a personal favorite of mine. We'll continue with the content of the presentation. So these are self-strengthening statements that we listen to, think, or say. They allow healthier thought patterns to flourish and are an antidote to stress. So I'll read some examples. I am in the present moment. I believe in myself and the strength of the human spirit. Our society, country, and the world are overcoming this. I am an essential part of the process. Even if things are difficult now, I trust the overall path that my life is taking. I'll start with what I can do today. I accept the situation that I'm facing. I am confident in my ability to take necessary precautions. Even if I don't see them now, there are solutions to my problems. I embrace all of my emotions. I let go of the past. I practice gratitude and forgiveness. I find examples of kindness around me. My level of motivation is increasing. I feel greater amounts of happiness. I trust my intuition. I am doing my best. I effectively handle stress. I adapt and focus on solutions. I persevere. I act from a place of love, compassion, and peace. So how do you feel listening to that? And if it helped, you can find more affirmations online to listen to first thing in the morning or before bed. So if our values line up with what we're doing every day, we are more likely to be engaged and satisfied in life. So you can reflect, what are my values? What kind of person do I want to be during the pandemic? And this can have a significant impact on how we manage stress and cope with uncertainty. So also try to understand how your emotions or thoughts can change when under pressure. And be aware of decisions that you make under those circumstances, especially if they're very important decisions or if there might be impulsive ones. So you can ask yourself, how do my daily activities affect my body and my mind? And you can take a step back for a moment if you notice that you're not at your best. We have some ability to manage our emotions. So our feelings may fluctuate from one extreme to the other, and it's normal to experience negative emotions. Right? In society, we often hear things like, what's wrong? Or, shh, it's okay, don't cry, don't be sad. When really, experiencing sadness is just part of being human, right? All of our emotions help to protect us. They draw attention to what needs to be addressed. So we don't have to push them away or let them take over. It's actually okay to let them be. So instead of burying or judging our emotions, simply identify and validate those feelings. Welcome them as part of the human experience. And with time, they will subside and eventually pass. So have you ever had the experience where a thought just randomly pops into your mind and you're like, where did this thought come from? So with that being said, resist the tendency to believe or judge every thought that arises in your mind, right? Sometimes your thoughts may be inaccurate. And with time, our beliefs of truth and reality often change, right? The things that you believe now might not have been what you believed, say, 5 or 10 years ago. Our thoughts can also magnify our emotions, and unhealthy thoughts are referred to as cognitive distortions. So this is a topic in and of itself, but you can learn about them and identify which ones you might be vulnerable to. So we can challenge unhealthy thoughts and aim for more balanced ones, right? So what if things turn out better than we expect? Also, during times of stress, be careful about catchy songs with lyrics like, I can't do this anymore, or my life is a mess, right? Sometimes releasing emotions through music is important, but it won't help if those messages are running through your mind as you're heading into work listening to that song on the radio, right? So mindfulness. So the modern world has many distractions, and it can leave us feeling disconnected from life. Mindfulness helps us to be aware of the present moment. It involves observing without being overly reactive or overwhelmed. Being engaged in the present moment also allows us to savor life's moments. Okay, children and animals tend to be very good at this. They aren't deep in thought about the past or the future. They're focusing on the present moment. And I think somebody's microphone might be on. I'm not sure if we could mute everybody. Great, thank you. So focusing on the present moment actually helps to build resilience. It actually allows us to do what's best with what's in front of us. It also creates space for creativity, for solutions, for connection, and for processing emotions. And all of these can help to sustain us in the long run. So deep breathing stimulates the relaxation response, and coincidentally, meditation involves the breath. It also improves our brain's ability to concentrate, okay? So the mind will wander during meditation, and when it does, we can redirect attention back to breathing repeatedly. And if we do this often enough, it becomes easier to let go of stressful thoughts and to focus on the moment again. So there is a growing body of research that shows how regular meditation can improve physical and mental health. Most importantly, it gives us some time during the day for peace. So there are a lot of great apps out there, and you could try 5 to 10 minutes a day first thing in the morning. And with time, you will notice an improvement in the ability to let go of stressful thoughts. So consider the following. It's often the deepest pain which empowers you to grow into your highest self. So spirituality helps us to find meaning and make sense of change, death, and suffering. It also gives us a sense of the human experience and where we fit into the larger scheme of the universe. It's important to acknowledge the universal nature of suffering as opposed to avoiding it. And given that every living being experiences it, perhaps suffering has a purpose in this universe. It's often through difficulty that we explore the depths of ourselves. And maybe it brings us closer to understanding the true meaning of love and compassion. Sometimes struggle is necessary for growth and emergence. The caterpillar has to go through a process before it's ready to spread its wings, and it probably doesn't regret having to go through the difficult cocoon stage. So this isn't to say that we shouldn't aim to reduce suffering in our world, but by being less averse to our suffering, maybe by finding some purpose in it, it may help to reduce it, and then we are more likely to survive. So here's another quotation. Only in my pain did I find my will. Only in my chaos did I learn to be still. Only in my fear did I find my might. Only in my darkness did I see my light. So stress can also build when we insist that reality be different than it currently is. So consider the following quotation. The path out of hell is through misery. By refusing to accept the misery that is part of climbing out of hell, you fall back into it. So this is by Marsha Linehan, a psychologist who founded a treatment called dialectical behavior therapy. So the idea here is that acceptance of struggle or change can help us to overcome it. Our biology actually functions at its best when it's in direct contact with nature. And there's an emerging science that is exploring this. The effects are almost immediate, and you might notice this yourselves. So unfortunately, the structures of modern society leave us disconnected from the earth itself. So connect with nature in any way that you can on a regular basis, even in the winter. Go for a walk, spend some time in a park, absorb some sunshine, breathe in clean air, or even sit under a tree and actually touch the earth, especially as the weather warms up, and notice how much better you feel. So thinking about the universe can help to gain perspective. So there are an estimated 2 billion Earth-like planets in our Milky Way galaxy. And that's the picture on the left. And an estimated 200 trillion galaxies in the known universe. So life on Earth is really just part of the cosmos. The red dot is how far the first human telecommunications have traveled in our galaxy, which is less than 200 light years. So personally, I actually enjoy watching shows like Star Trek: The Next Generation. So I'm a little bit of a Trekkie there. It's interesting to think about how humanity could exist in a theoretical future and how we have found solutions to the dilemmas that we currently face. So whatever you consume, just be wary that watching media containing excessive fear and violence, right? Spend more time on stories involving human triumph as opposed to destruction. Similarly, there are some universal aspects of the human experience throughout history. So countless periods involving things like plague or oppression, natural disaster, and war. And people have written about these events even hundreds of years ago. So I'm not invalidating how difficult or unique our current struggles are in this pandemic. Rather, it can be a reminder that the human spirit can overcome immense difficulty. We have it in us to survive these times, as difficult as they are. And once we get past this, we might have some battle scars, but life will taste sweeter. Okay, similar to how people probably felt after World War II ended. So our society has a bit of a blame-oriented feel to it, right? We're always looking for what's wrong. And blame will only get us so far and may not actually help with survival or finding solutions. So the practice of gratitude can help to counter this at a personal level. And generations that preceded us seem to do a better job of this, right? For example, regularly giving thanks before a meal. And First Nations people also, they have a reverence for the natural world or the elderly. So gratitude, even for the basic things in life, can help to build resilience. You can think about things that went well or that you're grateful for. You could even include that as part of your team discussions, as opposed to focusing on things that didn't go well all the time. Personally, you could record it in a journal, and rereading it can be uplifting. So when you can, it's not always possible, but find time to celebrate the good in a sincere way, even during difficult times. So every act of charity and kindness helps society to overcome this pandemic. It can give us a greater sense of purpose and hope, and also improve a sense of control and connection with each other. So simple kindness to even someone in customer service can go a long way, especially when they make a mistake, okay? Search for stories about acts of kindness. They can be uplifting and a good antidote to the news cycle. And if we notice that someone is struggling, we can ask them, what's going on, or how are you doing, as opposed to what's wrong, quote unquote. And then we can just listen. We can hold space. Sometimes that's all that's needed, and sometimes there might be nothing wrong. So it's best not to probe into the details or make the conversation about us instead of them. Simply be present and patient, right? And respect that not everybody wants to talk. We can let them take the lead. If appropriate, we can provide resources. Try to maintain a supportive relationship with people at home and at work. Look to strengthen social connections if possible, even virtually. Establish a workplace culture that supports recovery if possible. Feeling valued, feeling appreciated and part of a team can help to prevent burnout and to prevent absences. Right, in terms of feeling appreciated, the mental health awards that we had yesterday are a good example of that. So I encourage throughout the hospital to maybe foster a culture of appreciation, because every person is crucial to the institution functioning well. Compliment and show appreciation for other people. Humor is important, but not at the expense of other people. So keep that in mind. But it's good to laugh. It's good to joke around about things, to look at the lighter side of life. Some organizations are utilizing a buddy system to check in on each other. And so talking about how you're coping and asking for help is actually a healthy thing to do. Manage your energy like it's a battery or an account and aim to keep it balanced. Our experiences, thoughts, and behaviors will deposit or withdraw from our energy supply. So strive for more deposits than withdrawals, and recharge and replenish with things that are uplifting. So a reminder to counter the stress response often. Okay, yoga is particularly effective because it incorporates movement, breathing, and mindfulness all into one activity. In addition, pay special attention to how our environment impacts our senses. You might notice that in health spas, they have a soothing combination of sound, smell, sight, and textures. So maybe try to incorporate a spa-like experience into your own relaxing practice at home to really turn up the relaxation. So experiencing stress doesn't mean that you aren't up to the job. It means that you're human. Right? Reflect on the value of your work and its benefit to society and why you might have first chosen it. Remember that people are extremely grateful for your sacrifices and work in your role. And this can be a very rewarding aspect of our jobs. So spend just as much time addressing what our organizations and government systems are doing well. Look for that, because we can tend to do the opposite, especially in news media, because it sells. Acknowledge that our leaders are doing the best that they can. They might not be perfect and they should be held accountable, but they're doing the best that they can. And there's been a remarkable enhanced capacity for collaboration during this time. I think that's important, and it could be a good sign for how a global society will look in the future. Some key points. So practice self-care every day. So the acronym: sleep, exercise, leisure, and food. Each morning you can ask yourself, what are the self-care activities that you might be doing that particular day. Recognize that we all have limits. Make some room for uncertainty. Focus on areas that we can control. And pace and take care of yourself. So this is a unique time, one of incredible stress, but also of increased growth and collaboration. My belief is that each one of us is a vital part of the collective human family. And if more of us feel uplifted, then we improve our chances of a better future. So I do hope that this presentation leaves you with one thing that you could do more consistently to improve wellness. More suggestions can be found at mentalhealthcovid19.ca. And thanks very much for your attention.
I want to thank Dr. Perera again for such an engaging presentation. It was great to see something that I can add to my toolkit and reminders of things that I need to continue kind of adding and building on. We do have about 5 minutes, so if you do have maybe any questions, this might be a good opportunity to ask them. And if not, thank you for joining us again, and have a great and wonderful day and weekend up ahead.